Hey there. All right, so today I'm going to talk to you about the structure of gangstalking setups. The structure of anchoring is really simple. They typically consist of four steps. There is the visual cue, the verbal cue, the tryout, and the observation. All setups are different depending on the purpose, and some are more elaborate. I'm going to cover two simple setups. I'm gonna cover a 3 day setup and then I'm gonna cover a week-long setup. So we're gonna start with the simple ones. I'm gonna start with the one about red hair. So I was at work and my co-worker Juan asked if I had seen the girl with red hair. I said no because I really hadn't seen the girl with red hair. And immediately after he said it, a girl with red hair walked in. Her name was Chanel. She's like this ghetto fabulous customer who I like so much. And she then began speaking in, the typical gang stalker will say words with like maliciously, like like she was saying she wanted to get some terminals for the battery, and then she was, oh, I just needed to screw really well. And so that's how kind of like that they're gang stalking you, is because they use this thing. They don't say anything out of place, but they accentuate the word that tells you that it's that they're gang stalking you. And she had red hair. So then immediately after, a really tall red hair guy came in, and then I don't know what he wanted, but then he left, and then another person with red hair came in. So then I began noticing red hair, and my attention began to turn to the hair of girls. So I freaked out a little bit inside, but I didn't express anything. And then my attention began expanding to people with copper hair, copper beard. So I began noticing it, but I decided, well, I know that they're basing themselves off my behavior. So I had no reaction. I acted as if nothing was happening. And this just worked for like an hour, and then it went away because I didn't pay any attention to it. So that is the one of the simplest setups. Now, another one that is very similar to that one is when, oh, I'm sorry. So back to the red hair. I knew what was happening and I felt it, but I completely ignored it. They were cementing the red hair trigger by having several red hair people coming consecutively. So then after the people with the red hair, they set up, stop coming in, then they observe you. They observe how you react to other people with red hair. So depending on your reaction, then they really start observing you. And if you don't react if you don't look uncomfortable, then they're gonna assume that it wasn't effective. um Now, second example, orange. So I was smoking in the dorm with Chivas. He's a malignant gang stalker. He made the Dupers Delight, and then he said orange. So then I just completely ignored him, and I knew what was happening because of the red hair situation. I already was getting an idea of the structure of the setups. So then I walked out to my car because I had to go to work, and then I found an orange cone on front of the door of my car. So then I move the cone, and then I get in my car, and then I leave, and then there was road work happening, and I began noticing the orange safety vests of workers. For a second, I did feel like it was meant for me, you know, and it was unsettling. But I was learning to ignore these thoughts. So I mean, I still notice them, but because more time has passed, these effects are almost um, unnoticeable. So that's that. So there was the red hair setup. There's the orange setup. notice that they have like a typical pattern. Now, some setups are a lot longer. So this setup was a 3 day setup, and so this one consisted of the shadow. So the shadow was fucking me, and it did it for 3 days. So they could tell because I had a face of delight, and I was leaning with like a lean over position over the counter because I was freaking loving it. Let me tell you, it was kind of amazing for 3 entire days. Anyways, so they know they know that that was happening. They knew that what was going on. So so during that day, that's their cue for this setup to start. So the entire time they were for the whole 3 days, people, my coworkers, began producing a loud bang whenever said a word that was part of the vocabulary. Anything was that could have been seen as anything to do with sex, such as big, small, thick, whole, young, hard, soft, and even the prices. So anytime a gang stalker would 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 say any of these words, I would hear a bang, and then they would do the duper's delight expression. Now, again, the fact that this type of conditioning was happening exactly during the days that the shadow was having sex with me tells me that they know that the shadow does this, and they have knowledge of this. But this is the thing, now you know that it exists. So I think people could also be made to believe that, like in my case, it was called the shadow. That's what the voices called it. But I guess they could. I don't know if some other people call it like direct energy weapons. But so they know that this is happening. They know that the shadow does this, and they know when it does, and that's when they do this type of conditioning. Now, so this is why they began conditioning me with the sex related trigger words. Now, after 3 days of conditioning of the loud banging, even with the prices, like when someone said, this is when I started noticing that something was off. So a customer bought something that was like 12.50. My head began going to 12 years old and 50 years old together having sex, and I was like, well, that's weird, and that made me feel really uncomfortable. And this is the thing. They saw my discomfort and they began doing the duper's delight expression whenever they said any price. So then you began hearing 12.50 and 9.10, 9.30, and I was my mind was going there, imagining like each number began representing the age of each person, and a lot of times it made me really uncomfortable. So now, after 3 days, the conditioning was complete because my mind began connecting a lot of things. So like, a customer came in to buy an oil dispenser, like a thing with a thing with a trigger. It has like a little hose, and then one hose was like this, and one oil dispenser, and the other one, the hose was like that, an oil dispenser. So I began laughing because I saw two phallic shapes, one sad and one erect. And then I looked at the customer, and then I laughed, and he just like he didn't know what I was laughing. So then he obviously didn't see what I was seeing. I mean, I had just spent 3 days of being conditioned. So then I looked at the transmission additives, and then I saw transvestites, and then everything began looking phallic. Anything that was a number two, I began thinking of double penetration. And then a customer walked in. I was like already freaking out, but then like I wanted to run away. I didn't know what to do because all of these words were making me incredibly uncomfortable because they were lining up to all they were connected to things that they're typically not connected to. Like I got an anxiety attack, But I contained myself. I did my best to pretend that nothing was happening. So then we were already closing the store, and then I began cleaning the window, the door window. And then it was this foamy window cleaner that you spray it, and then I couldn't help myself then to like observe the spray into the window, and I immediately thought, oh, that looks like a load. And then I began cleaning it with a paper rag, and then I began immediately making the connections with, when I'm wiping myself off after shooting a load. And this was happening while the shadow was effing me all the way to my nose, all the way to my nostrils, from my ass to my nostrils. It was kind of amazing. That was actually the best part. It was amazing. But I was freaking out, and then the shadow, the topping of the shadow wasn't pleasant anymore. It began to feel evil, and and then this is when I really freaked out. So I clenched my butt until it stopped fucking me, and then it did stop topping me because I forced it to. Now, I looked at the trash cans, and then the opening of the trash can, I began to look at it as a hole, you know, like a hole, and and then a customer walked in, and then he very sinisterly, he was by himself on by the entrance, and he said, "Big, small, hard, soft," like really sinisterly, long, thick, just those words. He laughed and he walked out. That's it. So then I was closing with Caleb Osuna. So then I was trying to distract myself. So then I began watching a YouTube video, and then all the vocabulary words that they were using in the video, my mind was sexualizing, and I freaked out. My first instinct was to change the freaking YouTube video and close the app. But I already knew that stopping the video or turning away means that the conditioning has been effective. So when you're conditioned and you realize that you have been conditioned, you do not turn away, and you keep watching the whole damn video without expressing any type of discomfort, because that is their cue that the conditioning has been effective. So I I freaking endured the discomfort, and then Caleb Osuna was watching this whole ordeal from behind the battery. So the battery rack doesn't have a wall behind it, so you have to put the batteries from the back to the front, so the old batteries come out first. So there's curtains in the back, so he was watching me through the curtain. I saw him, and this is I knew he was observing me. So I finished watching the video, and then he got desperate, and then when the video began saying these words, he began making banging sounds whenever he heard the word. So he said loud, and he slammed something on the floor, and big, and he slammed something, and I saw him slam something too. I went to the back with the video playing, and I saw him slam the things on the floor. I saw him, and that was just weird. Like, I literally physically saw him slam the things on the floor. And then he just like stopped, and then he just began doing his closing things. He was slamming catalogs on the commercial, on the parts counter of the commercial side. Like, I saw him with my own eyes do this. Now, he went to open the safe because he had to get the money out. And then he leaned over to open the safe. And boom, I looked away in fear. Why? I don't know. But this was vaguely familiar. This turning away was the same thing how they made me feel fearful of the hand signal. When the hand signal when you start putting together evil with a hand signal, you look away. Now I began feeling evil with someone bending over with their ass pointing at me, look away. So this is how I knew, okay, this is gonna be the next sign. I just knew it. Plus, in the beginning of the harassment, someone did that when I was at Choose Fitness and I was gonna shower, and the gang stalkers were doing the signals to me. They were hand signals, and one of them was bending over in front of me. And I made the connection. Okay, this is really familiar. So no, I made that note, and then I was like, okay, I'm not gonna look away whenever someone bends over in front of me. So then the next day at the gym, I was doing my work, my workout, and then that the first thing that happened, first thing, I was sitting down, and then someone went and literally just grabbed the weight in front of me, and they put their ass on my face, and my first instinct told me turn away, but I didn't because I already knew. So then it happened again. It happened 3 times in like a span of 5 minutes. And then I observed them, and they began looking at each other like, what the fuck? What the hell is happening? Because I was supposed to look away whenever anyone bent over in front of me. That was the next gang stalker signal, because I knew what it was beforehand, so I didn't turn away. So after that, well, another instance when I was in lunch, gangstalkers sat around me, and they began saying big, small, with the gangstalker grin, with the fool's delight grin, with a narcissistic grin. All of those three apply. And I ignored it, and then guess what? They stopped doing it. It stopped being effective. They stopped doing the grin when they were saying the prices. They stopped doing the grin when they were using the vocabulary. They stopped. Why? Because I fooled them. I fooled the entire gang stalking squadron onto believing that the very effective and very successful conditioning was not. Points for me. And yeah, so that's how I began learning how they worked, how the conditioning worked. Okay, now we're gonna go to my last one that we're gonna cover today, my last conditioning. For this was the most unbelievable one. For a whole week, every single car, 99% of the cars around me were a single color. One day they were all red, another day they were all black, another day they were all gray, just like that. And another day they were all white. So then for a whole week, I took some pictures. I think I erased them because I was like, no one is gonna believe this shit. But anyways, if I decide to activate the gang stalking again, which I think I actually might, but I would have to go back to use drugs, but I'm not ready for that. I would have to just freaking go for it, and hope that they start conditioning me. Like, if I do this again, I'm gonna have so much video equipment, and after I make all these videos, you're gonna see the subtleties. But that's still in the air. I'm not sure. Depending on how this channel does, I might. Anyways, I'm not concerned about me because it wouldn't be for my pleasure. It would be to document something, and this actually means a lot to me. Now, anyways, so the last one. So every single car for a whole week was a different color. And I know this was right because I trained a client in the morning. And this client told me herself, right now, ahorita te estamos acondicionando para los colores. Right now we're conditioning you to the colors. She told me this herself. This is why I'm telling you what I'm telling you. I'm not taking wild guesses. I am not making shit up. I'm telling you things as they are. I'm telling you the truth because I was gang stalked for so long and I didn't run away from it. And they didn't see any type of effect on me in any way, shape, or form because I didn't say anything. So they felt the need for me to validate their doings by telling me directly because they thought I didn't notice. This is the power of silence, of not saying anything. They had no idea that I was gathering information this whole time. That's why you never react, because when you don't react, they don't know that if they're being effective or not on you. They don't know what you're thinking. They know nothing. They think they know, but you haven't given them any and they're not certain of anything because you're not reacting to anything. So they want to feel that sense of power because you haven't given them any sense of power. They feel that they get the power by seeing you become crazy, by seeing you react to their shenanigans. But the fact that I wasn't reacting, they were not getting any narcissistic supply. They were not getting any sense of power because I was not reacting in any way, shape, or form. So, because I wasn't reacting, they felt the need to tell me themselves what they were doing. So then, anyways, so this was the effect that the color conditioning has. I was on the freeway, and they're gonna purposely put a car that is one color that you have been conditioned to in front of you, and then your brain is gonna start only noticing that color. That color is gonna pop up everywhere you look. And then that car, this is mind control. That's what it is. It's mind control. You're conditioned, and then they make your brain do something. But then I never said anything, so they had no idea if this was effective or not. They had so not an idea that they felt the need to tell me what they were doing. I knew what they were doing, but they didn't know I knew. They thought I didn't even notice because they thought that I didn't notice anything. Because I was becoming so good at pretending that nothing was happening by this time that they felt the need to tell me themselves. They were getting desperate. That's why their anchors began becoming so obvious. Because I was getting the hang of it, I already knew how the structure, and I was getting material to make all this information public. To tell you guys the effect, to tell you guys the structure, so that anyone that's getting gang stalked knows how this goes down, knows the effects, and once you know, it's not gonna work because you already know how it's gonna go. So if you're getting gang stalked, watch this whole damn video. All right. Anyways, and so that happened for like a couple of days. Every time I was on the freeway and a black car got in front of me, I began noticing all the black colors. I thought this was so cool. This was actually the coolest part of gang stalking. Other than the shadow dude effing me, I thought that was super hot because it felt so good for like 3 days. But yeah, it's so stupid, the mind control of the colors. That's all it does, And lastly, I'm almost done. The more time you're getting gang stalked, you are going to start setting yourself up. The more setups you live, you're going to start setting yourself up without even noticing. You're going to start setting up yourself with the colors. Like all of a sudden, I was at work and I work at O'Reilly Auto Parts. So there's a lot of green. So then all of a sudden, I was getting conditioned to the green. And when you're having that effect of the color conditioning, they know. Or at least it feels like they know because they're doing the gangstalker grin. So at this time, they were desperate because they were not getting any narcissistic supply. So they were doing the grin with everything. They were just doing the Droopers Delight grin, the narcissistic grin, because they were so lost. They were so confused. They didn't know what was going on because I wasn't reacting to anything by this point. And so then, also, someone dropped keys. I actually turned away to see if they were mine, and then they all began jingling their keys. And that's how desperate they were for supply, for a result which they never got. Now, also, so that's up with all this with the setups. So their narcissistic supply, their gang stalker supply, their sense of power is by seeing you react. So when you have no reaction to anything that they do, they don't get what they're looking for. They become more hungry. They become more desperate. So their intent of getting a reaction from you becomes more obvious, and they start trying words. They get crazy because they're not getting any supply. They're not getting any result. So that was my supply. My supply was watching them get desperate of trying to get something out of me. They were just throwing words, throwing jingles, the glass, sunglasses, they were trying everything and nothing worked. And I was so happy. That gave me my sense of power, because you get this group of people, now you start seeing them as stupid because they're trying to get this sense of power by making you react, by making you go crazy, and all of a sudden nothing is working. And it is the funnest thing, watch them just scramble and scratch any type of possibility, any type of language to try to get some power, some sense of supply, some narcissistic gang stalker supply from you. And not getting anything is the best thing that happened. So that's it. That's the structure of the setups. That's how they go down. This is more than enough information that anyone that is getting gang stalked to inform you and educate you on their structure, on how they work, on how they have the effect in your mind, so that they don't have any power of you, because now you know what to expect. Now you have enough knowledge in the aspect of gang stalking that any type of setup will be futile, because you know how they go down, you know how they work, you know the structure, and you're gonna know a way to evade it. What you do is just completely ignore it. If you're watching a video that is using the words that you have been conditioned to, you just power through the discomfort and keep watching it. Do not turn away. That's it. Never turn away, and never only change it if the video is actually genuinely boring. But don't change it out of fear. If you're feeling fearful, keep watching it and feel the discomfort. The fear and the discomfort will go away. You just power through it, and if it will give you anxiety, you will feel like you're shaky. But just sit there and feel the discomfort, feel the anxiety, and you will become comfortable with the anxiety, and you will become comfortable with the fear. You're gonna feel the fear, and you have to do it anyways. And when that happens, their setups lose their power, and you drive them crazy. That's the way. You are going to drive them crazy instead. All right? That's all I have to say for today. Now you know how to survive the setups. Thank you for listening.